From Shine Cancer Support, this is
Not Your Grandma's Cancer Show.
This is not your grandma's cancer show.
Hi, I'm Tatum and we've been throwing out a few different names for this podcast episode, including bags of fun as well as shits and giggles, because today we're going to find out what it's like to have cancer and have a stoma. Let's get to it.
This is not your grandma's cancer show.
Not Your Grandma's Cancer Show.
So stomas being the subject of this episode came about when 28-year-old Sam met 29-year-old Lana at a Shine Meet Up event. Take us there.
We're all around a table at like a pub, and we were talking about doing a podcast ourselves, and then suddenly we're like, oh, actually, there's the Shine podcast.
Has one.
Like, yeah, we should get in contact.
Absolutely, and I remember your brilliant ideas of shits and giggles, bags of fun, and we just started thinking about all those funny things.
Yeah. Many poo-related puns. It's the only way to go with this. But I think Lana, I don't know whether you can embellish how it actually came up.
I started telling people about my very new at that moment Instagram page, and I was like, "Oh, Sam, would you like to subscribe?" And he was like, "I already follow you," and I was just screaming of joy, and it was really sweet. And I think that's how, because the blog, the page, is mostly about having a stoma. That's how the conversation started.
And Sam, how did you find Lana's Instagram? Were you searching out?
Shine actually reposted the account. So we had actually met up before this in some previous kind of Shine events. It was only this time that we'd actually talked about stomas and that. The Shine charity, I think, had reposted one of Lana's videos from her account. And I thought, I know that person, so I'll go follow them. And that's obviously when I found out a little bit more about what the account was about colonoscopies and that, which is obviously something that I have as well. So I think it went from there. We were across the table, and I was like, I've got one of those too. In which case the terrible jokes started unrolling.
Yeah.
Please share those with us.
The Christmas dinner became way spicier because Sam and I were not really sitting next to each other. We were sitting opposite on different sides of the table and shouting to each other because there were so many people. It was really loud. And we're like, and how do you cope with that? And did you have any embarrassing moments? Ooh, what about farting?
What did it feel like to be able to have that conversation across the table with someone that you'd only met once or twice?
It almost felt quite comforting, actually, that there's someone else that really kind of understands what you are doing. And it's just the funny little things that, I don't think would be, kind of comparing your favorite brand of stoma bags and just silly little things like that. It's someone who really actually kind of understands these things. And it was almost quite comforting, actually, whereas other people probably wouldn't understand a lot of that. It's good to have someone kind of with the same energy level who is going through a very similar experience there.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I've heard is that often information is so clinical, but actually you want to talk to someone that has some personality with it, that kind of meets you where you are. So tell me, Sam, where were you in your life? What was going on when you were first diagnosed?
So I was 25, so it was about 3 years ago. I finished university. I'd studied mechanical engineering at Plymouth University. And I'd graduated and kind of decided that, I didn't want to dive straight into a full-time intensive career. And instead, I took that time to actually move to Australia and just do a bunch of random jobs, meet a bunch of random people and kind of live it up a little bit. Obviously, this was also the time that COVID hit. So I managed to escape some of the COVID woes by living in Queensland. So I had a great time over there, doing all sorts of kind of outdoor ed jobs and the like. Then it kind of obviously came to the point where, COVID had gone. I was getting fed up with the odd jobs that I was doing, although they're kind of enjoyable. They didn't really have any further progression. And I wanted to come home and continue going towards that career that I wanted. So I got a place to study nuclear engineering. I then moved back to the UK. But when I did, I noticed things were a little bit wrong. Obviously, I lost a lot of weight I think it was something like 20 kilos in a couple of months. I was finding it difficult to go to the toilet, at which point I kind of got back to the UK and went straight to my GP, in which case all the craziness kind of ensued. So, after that, it was, meetings and stuff. And that's when I learned that I had stage 4 colorectal cancer that had spread to my liver and to my lungs. So that was quite an intensive point in my life, yeah.
I mean, you're out there adventuring in the world, figuring out what you want to do, having some fun, and then you were thinking, okay, I want to go back. I want to feel like there's some sense of progression. You were talked about like the work that you were doing wasn't taking you where you wanted to go. Did you have a sense when you were losing that weight that there was something wrong? Or did you feel like, is this from this very different lifestyle that you had out there?
So I kind of realised something was wrong. The other troubles I was having going to the toilet and stuff, I put it down to like a food intolerance or something that I didn't, something like that I was eating and didn't realise that I was kind of allergic to or that sort of thing. So that's kind of the line that I was going with. And obviously I didn't, for the life of me, think it would be quite as serious as it ended up being. I knew something was a little bit off, but nowhere near as crazy as it ended up being.
Yeah. And so hearing that news, what was going on in your head? Like, how were you beginning to process that diagnosis?
I think the first thought is just sheer terror, sheer unadulterated terror that this is happening. And everything was incredibly quick at the start as well, particularly when I had an initial meeting where they told me that it was colorectal cancer. And then they did further scans, and then they had a meeting where they told me, obviously, that it had spread. And after that second meeting, it was about 12 hours, and I was in theatre to install a colonoscopy. Just installing the colonoscopy, they didn't actually remove any of the cancer there. It was literally just to allow myself to continue pooing. It was really like a whirlwind. Everything happened so quick at the start. Then, after all that happened, you settle down with chemo, and then you keep waking up the next day and you just continue to kind of deal with it as you go. And it just strangely, slowly just becomes what's normal to you, to the point that you then forget that none of this is actually normal. Yeah.
No. And who did you have to talk to at that time? Like, was there anyone that understood what was going on with you, that was the same age as you?
I'm lucky to have quite a plethora of fantastic friends who were around to support me at this time, because I just moved back to Australia. I'd moved back in with my parents, so they were also there to support me as well, which is invaluable during my time. Just to have somewhere to live, to not have to worry about rent or the like, and to have the space that friends can kind of come over, stay over and come spend some time has been fantastic. But the problem being then is that a lot of those friends, they have lives as well. They're continuing to work on their careers and their relationships and all that kind of stuff. Whereas I was just stuck, not really being able to do anything, milling about my parents' house at 25 years old initially. That was very tough. And certainly there wasn't anyone that I knew of my age that had cancer. I didn't have any contact with anyone who I could really relate to in that way. So that was very difficult for quite some time.
Yeah. And Lana, I'd love to bring you into the conversation here. So you were originally diagnosed in 2015. Can you tell me a little bit about your life then and what was going on for you?
Probably as pretty much anyone at Shine, I was not expecting anything like this. I was at my final year at university, having my first job at the same time, starting my first serious relationship at the same time, just weeks before. And I just went for a routine gynae appointment nothing really bothered me. I just thought, okay, it's this time of the year, I need to go. And they told me, ooh, you have a cyst in your ovary. And then after more tests, ooh, you've got multiple cysts in both your ovaries. And then just a few weeks later, I ended up in this big cancer center in my city and had a fairly urgent surgery. And when I woke up, I realized I do not have my ovaries anymore. I do not have my uterus anymore. I'm not going to have a baby biologically ever. I'm not going to have period again. And I'm in menopause 3 decades earlier than other people usually are.
I can really
So
hear...
that was quite full on.
Yeah, from both of you, this, I mean, talk about a very similar stage of life in terms of that kind of getting out of university, life starting, figuring out, relationship, and then this 12 hours for you, Sam, until going into surgery, and then Lana not being prepared for a huge change in your life and in your body. And that wasn't the end of the changes for you as well, because what happened in 2023?
Unfortunately, my life wasn't as settled as you would think. Oh, 8 years passed, but still I was struggling with a lot of long-term effects of my first cancer, both physical and mental. And probably because I'd already had it once, I was able to really pay attention to my body. And I realized that I'm constantly fatigued and thinking, this is not right. People my age go dancing and drinking all night. And I'm so tired. I go to bed at 8 p.m. and I stay in all the weekend. So I talked to my GP. And again, it took a series of tests and checkups and everything. And we found that cancer had unfortunately relapsed, and it had spread quite massively in my diaphragm and abdomen and bowels. And I had to have a really big surgery, which lasted for 12 hours, where my angel of a surgeon, who I absolutely adore, managed to cut out all of the 40 cancer pieces that were just spread everywhere. It was like a little going on a hunt for him. Ooh, where would it be? I need to find it. I need to cut it out. But he wasn't able, unfortunately, to just remove the cancer from a part of my colon. So the colon had to be removed. And so the colostomy was formed to give me a chance to function.
I love that you were saying how much you loved your surgeon, even though, like, after waking up from that, it would be really understandable if you were like, I don't really like him that much. But actually, sounds like this was your second really invasive surgery, extensive, covering multiple organs. How was it for you beginning to process that the second time around?
I think it was really difficult. And first, I was really depressed and really low and really emotionally unstable. But thankfully, with amazing help of the hospital staff and my friends, step by step, it goes into you. You start to realize, okay, that's the new reality. That's how things will be, probably, because with cancer, you never know. It might come back very soon. That was and still is a very big thing to comprehend, but definitely reaching out to people, be it medical professionals or friends, is a crucial part of this journey.
Yeah. So, Sam, what was it like the first time you got to meet someone the same age as you, going through some of these same huge changes at the same time, in this new reality of living in a way in your 20s that no one anticipates? How did it feel when you first met Lana?
So it was absolutely fantastic. So, I mean, the kind of mindset that I put myself in after the first surgeries and through most of the chemotherapy was very much, I didn't want the cancer to become part of my life. I wanted to pretend that it wasn't going on, basically just get through the chemo and kind of get back to where I was in my life. And it was only, I think, about 2.5 years in pretty much that I realized that I wasn't going to be going back to my original life. Like, that was gone now. And I needed to start building a new life for myself around my disease, and actually start getting out there and seeing how other people have been like building their lives and continue to keep on living despite the treatments and all the other jazz around it. So obviously then I discovered Shine and went along to one of the meetups. And certainly, you know, meeting someone who was almost exactly the same age as me, going through similar situations, was inspiring. Like, it really reiterated the fact that it isn't just me that is dealing with this, and that there are other people out there and they're living full and fantastic lives. So that was the kind of point where I was like, I need to kind of dig in and really start rebuilding a life for myself. Yeah, it was really fantastic to meet someone that, at least from my idea, seems to have achieved that. So, yeah.
Oh, I love hearing that. And it's so special, isn't it? What I'm hearing is those 2.5 years, your strength, your tenacity, your everything is kind of like wanting to get back to where things were. And there's something about that integration that sort of sounded like it was happening, where it was like, okay, I'm going to need to sort of make space for what is, and maybe have some friends that also get that.
Yeah.
Coming in to kind of resituate for going forwards. And, you know, one of the things from meeting both of you is like, both of you have so much energy and so bubbly. Lana, how was it for you meeting Sam that first time and kind of realising how much you had in common?
That was absolutely lovely. Just seeing, ooh, we've got a new Chinese who looks like a lovely person with incredible. I think, Sam, you could have been wearing the same shirt, something bright and funny. I think the very first meetup was pre-Christmas, so it was also full of games and laughter and talks. We sang some Christmas carols together, and it was absolutely incredible. And then just at the next Christmas dinner, when we realized, ooh, we are Stoma buddies, this was really nice to click with the energy, because I know some people are quite reserved, or they just don't want to focus on stomas or something. But Sam was making very similar jokes I make, naming his bag, which I know people do. I haven't, but apparently, how is lovely Paloma doing?
Paloma the Stoma is doing very well. I've got to credit that to a friend of mine, Chloe, who came up with that one. So it has forever been known as Paloma the Stoma now.
Oh, that's brilliant. I was wondering, I was like, oh, who's Paloma? And like, you know, what's the story there? Perfect rhyme. I love it. Because everything else in life, right, is that kind of, you know, as you're going through things, weird and wonderful things, when there's other people around you going through similar things, it makes it, you know, there is a word, and it's not normal, but it's sharing the weirdness.
Yeah.
There's that connection that someone could describe as normalizing things, but actually it's the acceptance that it isn't normal, but it's you're treating it normally in terms of your response to it. But Lana, for you, was there a difference in how things were sort of embody confidence from that first surgery to the second surgery?
There was a huge difference. For some reason, the first surgery that resulted in me not having regular female organs was not as bad. Maybe because my partner at that time was really supportive. I was very lucky. But that was a bit easier to deal with. But when I realized that I woke up and I have a bag where I will poo for the rest of my life because mine is permanent, that was a huge shock. I thought that nobody's ever gonna be intimate with me. I will never feel good about myself. How am I gonna put on a swimsuit? I love swimming. Does it mean I'm never gonna do swimming again? And I remember a friend bringing a magazine in hospital just to cheer me up so I could look at the pictures. And usually I would love that. But at that time, I was looking at all those beautiful models, all those girls, and thinking, them and I are just different species. I'm never going to be like them. And I just wanted to throw that magazine through the window. I had a lot of anger and sadness. But I would say with time and with therapy and work on yourself, just telling yourself, this is the new norm. As you said, just accepting the weirdness. This is it. This is okay. Other people have it. Other people look normal for me. So why can't I be normal for myself?
It's such a balancing act, isn't it? Because what you've described there, Lana, and you can't skip it. It is the sadness, there is the grief, and you can't just push those feelings away. Like, there is that space to kind of hold that, and at the same time, then finding your way forward with how you want to talk about it, or how you want to share it, how you want to incorporate it into your life. And I also heard something in there that actually, when you look at other people, we don't necessarily look at them and go, well, no one's going to be intimate with them, right? We just wouldn't do that. But we often think it about ourselves when we have something going on, but we wouldn't necessarily label that of someone else. So, Sam, coming to you, where are you with kind of body confidence and how you feel?
So certainly, I mean, after I came home from Australia, I wasn't in any kind of relationship. And I think after the diagnosis, I was very much kind of in that's something for later. Like, I've just got to get through this now. There's not really going to be any hope or chance of me meeting someone while I'm undergoing constant chemotherapy. In terms of like body confidence, I did often kind of think, how's it going to work like in the future? But I was never really too concerned about it because obviously, once again, future problem, I kind of had to deal with the cancer and deal with the treatment first before I kind of started worrying about that. That was kind of pushed to the side because I was mainly concerned with getting through my treatment. Things like, going swimming. Yeah, I've had a very kind of active lifestyle in water sports, so like kayaking, sailing, all that kind of stuff. And to think that, am I, with swimwear and stuff like that, how am I going to hide it? Do I just go in loud and proud? And it's those same kind of little questions that are kind of stuck in my head as well. But I don't know whether it was probably not lucky, but I didn't really get too concerned about all of that because obviously my main focus was on the continuous treatment because unfortunately they couldn't surgically remove my cancer.
And so if somebody's listening to this right now and they're like, so what did you decide about swimming? And have you found any workarounds? And have you found some things that you do now that you never even thought you could do before?
I mean, for me, I just haven't been swimming, which probably isn't the best solution. But, more and more I kind of think that with this, and it goes for anything, whether it's, a loud shirt or a stoma bag, you've got to own it. And just going in there, loud and proud, own anything, and no one can really say anything against you. And that's, I think it's the same for a stoma bag like that. Just, it's part of life. Everyone else has got to deal with it. You just go in there and be yourself, really. So that was my idea. But unfortunately, I'm all talk at the moment because I haven't quite put that to the test.
Lana?
it's not as difficult as I'd imagined that. It's pretty much the same routine. You just would need a bit more attention. I have done some swimming, so just prepare, just be ready that you might need more time, more care afterwards, but it's absolutely easy. You can swim, you should swim if you want to, no worries.
So if someone's maybe preparing to have this surgery, what do you wish that someone had told you right back at the beginning? Sam?
I mean, to be honest, it's not really to do with necessarily the colonostomy itself, but to do with the whole cancer kind of situation. I mean, like I mentioned before, for at least 2.5 years, my mentality was just, avoid everything, pretend it's not happening until I get back to my real life. And that's something that I really wish I'd reached out to places like Shine, like charities like Shine earlier in my treatment, and really actually engaged when I had a little bit more time to actually get to know people and get involved. That is one kind of, I guess, regret of mine, is that I left it so long before I kind of reached out to other charities that, allowed me to meet other people in a similar situation.
Absolutely. And that is something that we hear so much at Shine. And actually, the podcast is often a place where people come to sort of go, okay, what is Shine? What are the conversations that I might be having? And knowing that we talk about intimacy and sex and dating and regular things, as well as what to name or not name in the stoma bag, or where there's some good tips. All of that can be in there. Lana, what about you?
If someone who's listening is going through something similar or will get it soon, try to think that there probably are other options besides the one the doctors or the nurses give you. And I'm not talking about medical approaches. I'm talking more about the brands, the pouches itself, or the accessories, the things you can use. Because I remember in hospital, just one of my first pouches that I used was so ugly. I hated it. I called it a granny pouch, and I was like, no, I'm not gonna wear it. If you make me wear it, I don't know what I'm gonna do. And they brought me a nicer one, like a designer colostomy bag. And I was like, okay, now we're talking. Now things are way better. Oh. So there are so many more brands. There are so many things, creams, seals. So whenever you are ready, because I needed a lot of time just to get used to this idea. But when I felt, okay, I'm ready to explore, I started reaching out to different stoma providers and getting some samples, trying, do I like this fabric? Do I like this color? Do I like this shape? And it just gives you so much freedom, because you are not stuck with that only thing that you were given and told, like, it gives you an illusion of choice and control.
Yeah. Sam?
I said I was absolutely blown away as well, like the amount of different kind of gadgets and stuff out there that you can do. Like every time I go to my stoma nurse, I always come back with a different load of like bits and bobs to kind of sort stuff out. My one that I really like is like a 2-piece system. So I stick like one part to myself, and then the bag kind of clips on and off, which just makes it, because I'm nice and lazy, it makes it so much easier that you don't have to redo the whole sticking, because that's you've got to clean everything up and make sure everything's stuck down correctly. So that makes it so much easier for me that I can just change that every couple of days. And then the bag itself, I could just clip on and clip off to change as necessary. That's certainly something that I found that I didn't know initially, that I was recommended by my stoma nurse, and I have found just so helpful.
For like both of you, it's like how to fit it into your life. Like you were saying, I'm so lazy. Things should be a bit easier, I think, in life, just in general. Anything that can be made easier. Things that are like, yep, that's going to save me some time and energy. That makes me feel better. Lana, like you were saying, like a designer a designer pouch. All I could think of was granny panties. You were talking about a granny pouch, but I was imagining a big grey, voluptuous pair of granny underwear. And I was like, yeah, like any of us, if we're put in something that doesn't feel like us, is there like a matching lingerie with a pouch? Like, are they doing things like this? Can you know, if that's your vibe, like, can you find things like that can make it feel good?
You can definitely find some stuff, and Stomanos should be able to give you some names of the brands that make special underwear for ostomates. There are all sorts of them, more comfy, more glamorous ones. There are even some for intimacy. If you're uncomfortable removing your underwear, you can keep it on, but have your fun. I think it's also really nice after just trying different things yourself. You don't have to wear special lingerie. Mm-hmm. You can absolutely wear the regular one. So it's absolutely up to what is comfortable, what is nice, how you feel about that.
Is there someone that you follow, places that you personally share some of these tips or things that you found, Lana?
I do follow a couple of ostomates, so people who have stomas, and it's not only colostomy, there are other types. The generic name is Ostomate. There are some really good pages of people of different ages and different lifestyles, and everyone just shares how they manage, which is really helpful, again, to feel like nothing's wrong with me. That's not that I am an alien. There are other people in the similar situation.
Tell me how to find your blog.
It is on Instagram, and it is called Sweaty Poo. Sweaty for menopause, because hot flushes, and poo for stoma, poo.
I'm so glad that you explained that, because I had all kinds of other images going on. So that's your blog. And you're on Instagram and everything. And what does it mean to you to be open with all of this? How does that change kind of your relationship to the changes that you navigate with your body?
Incredibly liberating and empowering. When I was starting the blog, I thought I really want to help other people and be some sense of support for them if they're at an earlier stage of their journey. But also I do want to do it for me, because it's really empowering, just opening everything up and saying, that's me, deal with it. If you like it, you're welcome to stay. If you don't, well, what can I do?
Yeah. And Sam, how is it for you being open about this with people in your life?
I think I've always been quite an open person, and, you know, I think also that kind of helps other people kind of interact with me, you know, in the right way. When they understand what I'm going through, or have some sense of what I'm going through, then they can kind of adjust their expectations accordingly. So yeah, I've always been quite an open person, and I think that also helps as well, because if I wasn't open about this, then I probably wouldn't have ended up on this podcast. So yeah, I think, you know, being open about it just helps you bond with other people, or let other people know what you're dealing with, and allow them to kind of help you and support you as well, which I think is really important.
Yeah, you know, they could talk about meet cutes in rom-coms, and that's what I picture when you met each other, kind of like a stoma meet cute. Thank you so much. It's been so great having you here today, and I hope you get to come back again, because it's been so fabulous. I'd love to continue talking to you. And to everyone listening, this is what happens when you go to a Shine Meetup event. They're all over the country. So if you go to shinecancersupport.org, you can see the networks. They're all across the country. You can have your own meet cute of any kind with someone with the same age or going through similar things, similar stage of life. So we're really looking forward to seeing you there. Thank you to my amazing guests. Thank you to Radio Facilities. We couldn't do this podcast without you. And thank you to all of you listening and watching. And do get in touch. And if you have an idea, like Lana and Sam did, of we have to talk about this on the podcast, just get in touch with me. You can also find me at shinecancersupport.org. Till next time, bye.
Bye.
This is not your grandma's cancer show.
Not your grandma's cancer show.